Welcome to part 3 of The Healed Heal, Elevated Consciousness and Quantum Leadership. If you're joining us for the first time, I encourage you to watch parts 1 and 2 first to understand the foundations of consciousness shepherding, divine resonance, and quantum analysis. In this final part, we explore multidimensional awareness through the piece that surpasses understanding, consciousness transmutation from dissonance to creation, and practical applications of these principles across all dimensions of kingdom relationship and ministry. Chapter 9: Multidimensional Awareness Through Peace. Maintaining immediate presence with loving awareness results in the peace that surpasses all understanding, allowing multidimensional awareness. Observing and analyzing without becoming emotionally invested. Inhale presence analysis. Exhale faith in the process of observation. This peace-based multidimensional awareness enables consciousness to observe lower frequency patterns without being pulled into their vibrational field. Like viewing a storm from high altitude, higher consciousness can recognize lower frequency dynamics while maintaining divine alignment that prevents reactive engagement. From our exploration of dimensional consciousness, each dimension contains patterns invisible from lower dimensional perspectives. Multidimensional awareness means simultaneously perceiving multiple consciousness dimensions, recognizing lower frequency behavior patterns while observing higher frequency potential, seeing current developmental stage while holding vision for consciousness evolution. Paul describes this multidimensional awareness. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. 1 Corinthians 2-4. Higher consciousness perceives spiritual dimensions inaccessible to lower consciousness, enabling shepherding from elevated perspective. The peace that enables multidimensional awareness comes through divine alignment rather than human achievement. When consciousness maintains the divine breath rhythm, inhaling immediate presence, exhaling faith, it accesses the peace that transcends circumstantial understanding. This peace creates the stable platform necessary for observing multiple consciousness dimensions simultaneously. Practical application means that when encountering lower consciousness behavior, higher consciousness doesn't react from the same dimensional level but observes from elevated perspective that recognizes both current reality and divine potential. This enables responses serving consciousness elevation rather than reinforcing lower frequency patterns. Chapter 10: Transmutation through Awareness. An aware consciousness transmutes dissonance into resonance, resonance into alignment, and alignment into creation. This reveals the actual mechanism of consciousness shepherding and spiritual leadership. Dissonance to resonance. When higher consciousness encounters lower frequency dissonance, its elevated vibration creates resonant pull rather than resonant reinforcement. Like a tuning fork bringing other instruments into tune, higher consciousness provides reference frequency that enables lower consciousness to recognize and adjust its own misalignment. Resonance to alignment. As lower consciousness begins resonating with higher frequency through proximity to elevated awareness, it naturally moves toward alignment with divine principles. This isn't forced conversion, but organic elevation through resonant attraction toward recognized higher state. Alignment to creation. Consciousness aligned with divine principles participates in co-creation with Source, manifesting kingdom reality through quantum currency principles we've explored. As lower consciousness achieves alignment through higher consciousness shepherding, it gains access to creative power previously unavailable at lower frequencies. This transmutation process operates through awareness itself. Higher consciousness doesn't manipulate or force lower consciousness, but simply maintains elevated awareness that creates transformational field. The light doesn't fight darkness, it simply illuminates, and darkness naturally dissipates in light's presence. Yeshua embodied this transmutation. The people which sat in darkness saw great light, and to them which sat in the region and shadow of death, light is sprung up. Matthew 4:16. His elevated consciousness served as light that naturally transmitted lower consciousness frequencies into higher alignment without force or condemnation. Chapter 11. Co-creation from present alignment. From this present alignment with the Most High, co-creation occurs. This brings us full circle to our exploration of consciousness as divine fractal created to co-create in the immediate present. When consciousness maintains immediate presence through divine breath rhythm, while shepherding lower frequency awareness, it participates in divine creative process. Higher consciousness serves as conduit for divine will and love to flow toward lower consciousness, facilitating elevation through resonant transmission rather than human effort. For we are laborers together with God. 1 Corinthians 3:9. Paul recognizes that spiritual leadership operates as co-creative partnership with divine consciousness rather than independent human achievement. Higher consciousness aligns with divine purposes and allows Source to work through its elevated frequency for lower consciousness benefit. This co-creative shepherding manifests the greater works Christ promised. Individual consciousness aligned with Source achieves limited influence, but multiple consciousness operating in divine resonance create exponential effects through quantum mass multiplication. Kingdom communities functioning as networks of higher consciousness create regional and global transformational fields. The practical application means approaching every encounter with lower consciousness as opportunity for divine co-creation. We don't rely on human wisdom or manipulation, but align with immediate divine presence and allow Source to shepherd through us. Our role: maintain elevation through divine alignment. God's role: accomplish consciousness transformation according to divine timing and methods. Chapter 12. Internal and external applications. These consciousness shepherding principles apply across multiple dimensions, from individual relationships through community dynamics to regional and global influence. Individual relationships: when encountering friends, family, or colleagues operating at lower consciousness frequencies, we practice observing without emotional investment while maintaining loving awareness. We focus on desired behaviors aligned with divine principles rather than condemning misaligned patterns. We use triggered reactions as curriculum, revealing our own areas requiring continued divine alignment. Kingdom community internal. Within communities, mature consciousness serves as spiritual parents, guiding developing awareness. Leadership functions as shepherding rather than domination, maintaining elevated frequency that attracts rather than forces consciousness elevation. Communities address behavioral misalignment while affirming divine nature and potential in all members. External ministry. Communities relate to surrounding lower consciousness regions by maintaining collective divine resonance that creates attractive gravitational field. Rather than condemning surrounding culture, communities demonstrate superior alternatives through kingdom economics and consciousness-based operations. The light illuminates rather than fighting darkness. Regional transformation. Multiple kingdom communities operating in divine resonance create network effects that influence entire regions. Their collective quantum mass generates gravitational fields affecting consciousness across geographical areas, facilitating broader cultural shifts toward divine principles. Global consciousness. Evolution. Network divine resonance at global scale serves humanity's evolutionary process toward higher consciousness operation. Communities functioning as light stations create worldwide grid, facilitating consciousness elevation for entire human species according to divine timing. Conclusion. The healed heal, the unhealed through divine resonance rather than resistance, through shepherding rather than judgment, through light that naturally dispels darkness rather than fighting it. This principle transforms how we understand spiritual maturity, leadership, and consciousness interaction at every scale. By maintaining immediate presence with loving awareness through the divine breath rhythm, consciousness achieves the elevated frequency necessary for shepherding others toward divine alignment. This elevation creates attractive gravitational pull that draws lower consciousness upward through resonant transmission rather than forceful correction. The recognition that behavior observed reflects the curriculum of the observer transforms every challenging encounter into spiritual development opportunity. Our emotional reactions reveal areas requiring continued divine attention, while our peaceful observations demonstrate achieved consciousness elevation, enabling us to serve as spiritual parents for developing awareness. From present alignment with the Most High through quantum analysis and multidimensional awareness, consciousness participates in divine co-creation that transmutes dissonance into resonance, resonance into alignment, and alignment into kingdom manifestation. This represents the practical implementation of being lifted up to draw others toward divine consciousness. Remember, the foundation remains individual divine alignment through immediate presence and loving awareness. Without this nuclear relationship with the Most High, consciousness cannot maintain the elevated frequency necessary for authentic shepherding. But from this foundation, mature consciousness serves as light that naturally illuminates darkness, tuning fork that brings other instruments into harmony, and spiritual parent guiding children toward consciousness maturity. Throughout every encounter with lower frequency consciousness, inhale immediate presence, exhale faith in divine orchestration, maintain loving awareness without emotional investment, observe behavior for curriculum it reveals, focus on desired divine aligned outcomes, and trust that elevation attracts rather than forces consciousness transformation. If this message about consciousness shepherding and spiritual parenting resonates with your understanding, please like, subscribe, and share with others called to mature spiritual leadership. Stay immediately present in loving awareness, maintain divine alignment regardless of surrounding frequencies, and participate consciously in healing others through your own healed consciousness. And I, if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me.